What's going on YouTube? Ryan and Alex back once again for Dopemon. Today we are talking about the NHL Discover Central Division for the upcoming NHL season. Our predictions, analysis, kind of previews of all the teams. Uh, yeah, it's
If you've seen our other ones before, you know exactly what we're getting into, and if you haven't, go watch them after.
yeah. Go watch ones after. We have the North and the West, I think, up on the channel at this point. So yeah, go drop those a like and subscribe to the channel. We'd really much appreciate it. But no, without further ado, Carolina Hurricanes, Alex. Carolina
They're in
Hurricanes
alphabetical order.
lost in the first round to the Boston Bruins. Had a 38-25-5 record and were 15th in goals for and 9th in goals against last season. It's pretty solid. A couple guys they brought in didn't make a whole lot of changes. They brought in Jesper Fast, which I think is kind of under the radar good move, and Joakim Ryan. Guys leaving. Justin Williams is retired. Edmondson moved to Montreal. TVR, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Sammy Vatanen, who I think re-signed in New Jersey recently.
Yep.
The Carolina Hurricanes, for me, are so close, and they're right on the verge of becoming one of the best teams in the NHL. They're so close for me. They got a couple.
I couldn't agree more.
They got a couple guys, specifically maybe Andrei Svechnikov is 20, and I think he's going to have a monster year. They got a great core forwards. You got a great defensive depth. They don't have a goalie. Not really.
Yeah, outside of goaltending, they might be the most well-rounded team with the most depth, but then it's goaltending. And you get there and you're like, oh.
Yeah, they're running out Peter Mrazek and James Reimer again, who are both by themselves, I think, solid NHL goalies.
Mm-hmm.
But
fringe starter kind of, maybe 1B goalies,
Yep, I think they're both 1Bs. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
They don't have the guy. Maybe one of them takes it this year. I think Reimer might have the most playoff success out of both of them, but I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me. But it seems to me, aside maybe from last year, because last year was weird with the qualifiers, every time Carolina gets into the playoffs, they go deep. Rob Brind'Amour has kind of built this team very well for the playoffs. He coaches it very well in the playoffs. And I think they're going to have a great season. What can I say?
I feel like they took that playoff loss to Boston the way that Tampa took that sweep from Columbus. Really being like, oh, we probably should have been, we were the better team here. Maybe we should have won this. And we kind of like stepped off a little, and they're not going to let that happen again. I feel like they're like, let's not freak out and overcorrect. We have a good team here. We have it running for us. There's just, one bad series. We're going to come back next year with some fire. I think that's what they're thinking.
I agree. Moving on to alphabetically be Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago Blackhawks surprised a lot of people. Surprised a lot of people and beat Edmonton. I almost said Montreal. Beat Edmonton in the qualifiers, but then lost in the first round to the Vegas Golden Knights pretty handily.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a team that was supposed to make the playoffs. I think they were the last team to get in or to make the cut last season.
Yeah.
32, 30, and 8. 19th in goals for, 16th in goals against. A little bit of turnaround. Nikita Zadorov, part of that Brendan Saad trade. He's a Blackhawk now. Matthias Janmark and Lucas Wallmark. Departures: Brendan Saad, Oli Mata, Corey Crawford, who just retired, Drake Caggiula, Slater Cuckoo. And as of right now, Jonathan Toews, who may or may not play.
And Alex Nylander, I don't know if he's back yet.
Yeah, Alex Nylander, Kirby Dach are going to be out for a really good chunk of the year. So this team, I think, is officially plummeting out of contention.
Yeah, they're way too injured to have like a team out on the ice. They're just gonna like fumble something onto the ice and be like, you know what, this is just an injured year. They're already gonna rebuild. They're gonna accept it as a kind of a flop.
Yeah, and Jonathan Toews
lost their goalie.
Yeah, lost their goalie. Jonathan Toews, not happy in the offseason that this team was rebuilding. He was very vocal about that. And I think we're officially in a rebuild scenario for this team. They still got a couple of really good players. They obviously still have Patrick Kane. They still have Alex DeBrincat, Duncan Keith. They have guys who can do it still. But this team, I think, is going to plummet, especially because what the hell is the goaltending situation on this team?
Non-existent.
Yeah, Malcolm Subban. Yeah, Colin Delia, I think is the other guy.
Yeah, Delia. Yeah, that's
is that your
tandem?
That's your tandem, Chicago? I mean, okay.
2 AHL goalies.
Two guys who are maybe NHL goaltenders. This team's gonna be bad. This team's not gonna be good. I don't think this team has a chance. But they're going young. If they were healthy, they were going young. Kirby Dach, Alex Nylander, and my camera's doing the weird focus thing. Okay.
Yeah, in a healthy season, they'd be fun to watch because they had these guys. But with them injured, it's just sad to watch.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to watch a Blackhawk team that was so good for so long. This is the phase now. This is how it. What happens to really good teams that are winning 3 Stanley Cups in a decade, kind of thing. It's tough. Yep, it's gonna be an interesting year for Chicago to say the least. We'll see if Jonathan Toews comes back, what his situation is. We don't know a whole lot about it right now, but hopefully he's good and ready to play at some point this season. Anyway, CBJ, Columbus Blue Jackets, lost in the first round to Tampa Bay Lightning after sweeping them last year, after beating the Leafs in the qualifiers. 33, 22, and 15 were 28th in goals for in the league and 3rd in goals against. This team knows how to play defense. Some key arrivals: Max Domi, Mikko Koivu, are the biggest additions. Get some center depth for this team. Josh Anderson.
They could feel it in that playoff round against both Toronto and against Tampa that they just didn't have the center depth that either of those two teams did.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Especially in Toronto, after basically Pierre-Luc Dubois, they didn't really have a whole lot of answers for Toronto.
Alex Texier, that was like their next. Yeah, right.
They beat us with defense, and that's what this team does. They lost Josh Anderson, Alex Wenberg, Niedervara, and Ryan Murray. This team was hurt a lot last season. They had the most man games lost out of any team in the NHL last season. Their defense and their goaltending is where this team shines. They need some offense. But dissimilar to the Arizona Coyotes, kind of similar makeup, defense goalie heavy, I think this team has some offensive potential, whereas the Arizona Coyotes, I think, are kind of busted.
Yeah, they do have forward depth, they do have elite forwards, and with the sign, bringing in Domi for Anderson, bringing in Koivu, that they responded to their needs and what their deficiencies, and they're still a great defensive team. They're still gonna, destroy teams defensively, and now they have these extra tools. And I think that that playoff loss to Tampa was almost like something they saw coming. They beat Toronto and they're like, oh crap, we have to face Tampa. Like they're pissed. Like
it's a tough first round matchup.
And this team's gonna smack the crap out of you and then take it to the Stanley Cup, finals. Like you can't feel bad losing to the Cup winner. And I don't think they do. I think they realize that they don't take that as like a first round loss. They're like, we had a good season, a good playoff run, and they see themselves as like a better team than where they ended.
I think so too. I think this team has a little bit more offensive potential than they showed last year. A guy like Cam Atkinson, who's I think a 40 goal scorer from a couple of years ago, was hurt a large chunk of the year. They had a lot of guys off to injury, and I think just bringing a guy like Cam Atkinson back for full season, having Max Domi is a little bit of a offensive spark plug down the middle, I think is going to help this team dramatically. I don't know if they're much better than sneaking into the playoffs like they were last year. We'll get to predictions later, obviously, but I think they have the potential to make some moves in this division. This division's interesting. Hey, moving on. The Dallas Stars.
They're going to be a team with injuries to start the season. I think that's really going to cripple them.
It's going to hurt them a little bit, I think, too. Dallas Stars lost in the Stanley Cup Finals to Tampa. They were right there. 37, 24, and 8. 29th in goals for in the NHL regular season. Second in goals against. Another team is defense heavy, defense first.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically the exact same team.
I think I looked it up. They've made 3 trades in the past, 2 full years. They don't make a lot of moves. They let, keep the talent within the system and develop it within the system.
Yeah. As far as this offseason, Mark Piszczek, basically their only key guy they brought in, and Matthias Janmark and Corey Perry are gone. It's basically the same team that went in, with the notable exception of Tyler Seguin and Ben Bishop. Had surgeries in the offseason and will be out for a large chunk of the beginning of the year. But Seguin didn't have an amazing playoffs. He was there. He was injured, but he didn't have.
Playing injured, and it really showed that he wasn't himself. He wasn't that number one center that he could be.
Mm-hmm. And
Dallas needed it.
The regular season, he was their leading scorer. So not having them in the regular season is tough, obviously. Anton Hudobin, I think, is a decent stopgap until Ben Bishop comes back. I think he's still the starting goalie there. He was hurt, obviously, in the playoffs. A little bit of injury problems. What I looked at the depth on this team in goal, and I'm a little concerned. You basically got Anton Hudobin.
And that's it for until Ben Bishop comes back.
Until Ben Bishop comes back. Who's your backup? Yeah. He's Jake Ottinger is your backup. And then who? I mean, I was looking at the depth. I'm just scrolling through it now. They got a bunch of guys I've never heard of. They got
I'm surprised they didn't make a move for a goalie, an older even like Craig Anderson or something who was still available, because they know that they need at least a third goalie. They'll need a backup somewhere. They saw this coming.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised they didn't go out and get some goaltending depth, because after Jake Ottinger, on their roster right now is a guy named Colton Point and a guy named Landon Bow. I don't know who these guys are. They're both AHL goalies. They're both they're 22 and 25 respectively. They're young. What happens if we get Anton Hudobin goes down? He's an older guy.
Mm-hmm.
What if you tweak something? You got Jake Ottinger and what I don't want to have happen is a Vancouver situation from a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember, but they were hurt, and then they had a guy got claimed off waivers or something, and then they have Michael DiPietro had to come up from the OHL to start a game for Vancouver. They completely buggered up their goaltending situation.
Mm-hmm.
I would be really surprised if they didn't do something to help mitigate this. There's a lot of guys on waivers the last couple days. Getting anybody to come in and help, be your taxi squad goalie. Their taxi squad goalie right now is one of their 2 OHL guys.
Yeah, it's isn't a real goaltender who could actually play and step in. They need real goaltending. I think they're relying maybe too much on having a really solid decor. And they're we can just kind of have a mediocre goaltending and run with that. But I don't think that they have the forward depth to score to make up for maybe an extra goal in a night, because you don't have good goaltending. I just don't see. I see them having holes and not working to fill them.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I guess they're every team is cap strapped, right, coming into this year, but the fact they didn't move anybody to move some stuff around is, I don't know, it's a little surprising from a team that just went to the Stanley Cup final, and a team that his window is closing really fast. Their stars are.
It's almost a surprise they made it that far. I liked the game that they played and they deserved it, but it was a shock to me that they got as far as they did.
Yeah.
They upset better teams along the way, that their ability to replicate that next year with the same team, I don't think is possible.
Yeah, it's going to be...
They need to make the improvements. Every other team has been we lost because of this, so we added, and they didn't.
Moving on.
Yeah.
The Detroit Red Wings had a historically bad season. I think prorated out to a full season, they had one of the worst, I think the worst points percentage in the modern era. It was either, I can't remember if it was this Detroit team or the Colorado team from a few years ago. They were 17-49-5, guys. They were bad. They were 31st in goals for and 31st in goals against. Not a good hockey team from Detroit last year. A lot of turnaround.
That being said, you cannot get much worse than that.
No.
It's impossible to be worse than that.
It's hard to beat.
Nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, it's hard to beat what Detroit did from like bad hockey last year. They got a lot of turnaround. Mark Stahl is here. Bobby Ryan is here. John Merrill is here. Thomas Greiss is here. Tori Stetcher is here. And Vlad Nemestikov is here. Out, Jimmy Howard, Justin Abdelkader, Jonathan Erickson, and Trevor Daley. All older guys. Bunch of older guys. They've swapped in for guys who are not young, but guys who still have some play left in them. You know, Troy Stetcher is a younger guy. You know, they're replacing guys like Jonathan Erickson, who've been around a while, with guys like Troy Stetcher. The Red Wings are going to be bad still. They're going to be bad for a few more seasons.
I feel like they didn't want to make huge moves this offseason because they know they're waiting on their young kids with their like really high potential to come up. Yeah, you know, like guys like Zadina or Lucas Raymond, who's just drafted, or
Moritz Seider.
Yeah, Moritz Seider, I was thinking the defenseman. You know, like when those guys come up, they're going to be huge impact pieces, like when they're at their peak and at their level. And so Detroit's just kind of waiting for that still. And they're like, we're not going to make huge moves, you know, sign guys who can be really complementary. Bobby Ryan plays really well. You know, he's a good team leader. He's going to be a great addition to the team for the forward group, especially to lead them. And I see them accepting where they're at and just being like, you know, sign some guys who are key and keep waiting, you know, give the kids, you know, time if they're ready and keep them down if they're not, and just accept that they're still in a rebuild.
I 100% agree. A lot of short-term pieces. You know, Bobby Ryan is not a long-term solution. Mark Stahl is not a long-term solution. And it looks like they're not going to bring a whole lot of their guys over. It looks like Lucas Raymond is going to be staying overseas.
Yeah, they're going to take their time.
They're going to take their time with these guys. They know they're not competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be. The Florida Panthers. Florida lost the qualifiers to the Islanders last season. We're 35, 26, and 8. 6th in goals for and 26th in goals against. Kind of a flip from the rest of this division. High offense, not very good defense. Big arrivals.
They made a lot of changes.
They made a lot of changes. Big arrivals. Patrick Hornquist, Radko Dudas, Vinny Hedestroza, Alex Wenberg, and Carter Verhaeghe were their biggest.
And Anthony Duclair.
You're right. Anthony Duclair as well. Key departures: Mike Matheson, Mike Hoffman, Evgeny Dadonov, Brian Boyle is gone, Mark Piszczek, Josh Brown, and Lucas Walmark. Lost 2 of their top 6 forwards, in Hoffman and Dadonov. And
then they added Hornquist and Duclair to try and replace that.
And Florida is an interesting team. I was in doing research for this video. A good point was made by I'm going to quote him here, is EJ Hradek of NHL.com. Is Florida is ingrained, this is not a direct quote, but is ingrained in a culture of losing for a long time. And
sure,
we've talked about this. Me and you, people don't go to Florida to play hockey. They go there to retire.
Literally, like, you know, Luongo, Tim Thomas, they're like, we want to play, you know, goalie, have some fun on the ice, and then go retire and sit on a beach in Florida. It's literally a retirement team.
Yeah, and they need to get out of this mindset, and they've been trying, and they've brought in a couple pieces over the last couple of years to try to get themselves out of this. But, you know, they brought in Joe Quenneville. one of the best coaches in NHL history. They
Mm-hmm.
brought in Patrick Hornquist now. They got rid of Mike Matheson, who was an issue in the
Brought
dressing
in
room.
an elite goaltender.
They brought in Sergei Bobrovsky, who I think is going to be better this year.
Has to be.
And they still have the pieces. They still have the
Mm-hmm.
pieces, man. They have Barkov. They have Huberdeau. They have Aaron Ekblad. They got Bob. They have all the pieces, but they never seem to put it together. And every single year, I go, well, Florida's going to be a good team.
Yeah, finally they're gonna break free from this losing, thing,
Yeah,
and then they don't.
and then they struggle to even make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, they have like a good, they go win, they win their first 10 games or win their first 19 of 20 games, and then they lose the next 40. Like,
and
something so promising, and then they lose it. They just can't hold on to that winning culture.
And yeah, I struggle every year. I'm like, are they gonna do it to me again if I put some stock into Florida? Are they gonna do me like that again? And this year is similar, man. It's similar, especially with some losses in the top 6 with bigger guys.
I think also because there's so many changes that they may be a dark horse where they could go up and down the standings depending on how those pieces click. Because if they work well, it's like you got Wemberg and Duclair as a second line. They could both have 60 points. That could be like a genius signing, but they could also just put up half that, 30 points, and look like a flop. Really depends on these pieces.
Like we say all the time, and you go chill on the beach afterwards. They're in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. That's
interesting. Nashville Predators.
Yeah, Nashville.
Nashville Predators lost in the qualifiers to the Arizona Coyotes. Got beat.
Mm-hmm.
Got goalied, pretty much. 2019-2020 by Arizona. They were 35, 26, and 8 last year. 17th in goals for and 17th in goals against. Bottom half of the league in both. A lot of changes in Nashville. A lot of surprising changes. They brought in Boro.
Mm-hmm.
Brought in Borieski, Nick Cousins, Brad Richardson, Luke Kunin, Eric Holla, Kazimir Kaskasuo from Toronto. Not a big name, but I'll mention him because he was a Leaf. Departures, we got Nick Bonino's gone, Mikhail Granlund's gone, Cal Turris was bought out, Austin Watson is now a Senator, Dan Hamhuis retired, Craig Smith is now a Bruin. I think they lost Yannick Weber, but then he was on a PTO, but then he wasn't. I don't know where Yannick Weber is.
To re-sign him. Nashville needs a guy named Weber on the roster at all times.
Yes, it's a requirement, or else they're going to be bad. So we'll see how that works. The offense on this team needs to be better.
Yeah,
straight up.
I feel like the offense is middled out a little bit. They don't have elite top 6 scoring that they need to be competitive in this division. Against like the top 2, top 3 teams who do have much more solid forwards.
And to me, it's not that they don't have the pieces. They aren't getting the production from the pieces they have.
Yeah.
Guys like they all had career bad years.
Turris came in and didn't fit. Just you dropped in production. Duchesne comes in, drops in production.
Ryan Johansson had a bad year. Victor Arvidsson had a bad year. Philip Forsberg had a bad year. These are all guys who are really good players. And they still have one of the best defensive cores in the league, I think.
That's what's really holding this team together, in my opinion, is that they have an unbelievable 8 defensemen that they can put on a night at any given moment.
Yeah, and that's what's going to hold them on still, unless their offense can come through. Pecorine is obviously older. UC Saros is kind of the guy who's, taking the reins for now until I guess Yaroslav Askarov is ready in a few years. Their recent draft pick.
I see their goaltending tandem much like their forwards. Yeah, they're good, but they're not forming as good as they could be, and maybe middling out a little bit. And they just don't have it to be that top competitive playoff team. They just need more, and they're not getting it from these guys. So we'll see.
Last team in this division. Biggest team in this division.
Last but not least.
Not least at all. Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup last year.
Mm-hmm.
Best team in the league, Stanley Cup. 43, 21, and 6. First in goals for, 10th in goals against. I couldn't find a key arrival.
Yeah, they didn't bring anything in.
They didn't bring anybody in. They had cap problems.
Improvements.
They had cap problems, man. They got rid of Kevin Shattenkirk, or got rid of him. He signed in Anaheim. Zach Bogosian left, Ruda left, and Verhaeghe left. So that's a little bit of depth on both sides. But nobody who moves the dial so much that it's going to cripple this team. This is basically the exact same team.
Great team.
This is the exact same team that won the Stanley Cup. Minus Kucherov in the regular season. Which may or may not hurt. I don't think it'll hurt as much as people think, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are still going to be very good.
Mm-hmm.
They're still the team to beat in this division, I think. Kucherov injury hurts them, but I don't think it sewers them. They didn't have Stammer through their playoff run, and now they have Stammer for the regular season. It's kind of switched it up.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay always finds guys you've never heard of, and they're prominent pieces. Carter Verhaeghe was an afterthought. He was a Leaf draft pick, I remember. And he was an AHL guy, and then he was brought up to Tampa Bay Lightning, and he was a good player, and he was a piece, and then he got a UFA, he got a contract in free agency. They're going to do it again. They're going to find someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always key. Finding those sleeper picks. You know, they're not necessarily the sexy pick, but come end of the season, you're like, thank God that guy was here because he really tied down, you know, the team. You know, the fourth line, third line, or your bottom pairing D that keeps you competitive and makes sure you're not falling out in the, you know, in a playoff series.
Yeah, three guys.
They did that with Shattenkirk and Bogosian last year.
Yeah.
They got those, you know, they're like those sneaky
Schenn.
guys. They're just another one, Luke Schenn. You know, that whole right D on the, you know, on their team was just put together of pieces of like almost randomly.
Yeah, they're gonna have some internal help this year, coming from some of the younger kids. They still have a couple good prospects. They got Cal Foote coming up. He's going to get some time. I think Boris Kachuk is going to get some time. Taylor Radish is going to see a little bit of action. Or Taylor Radish, not Tyler Radish. Taylor Radish is going to get some time. They're going to be good again. The Tampa Bay Lightning are no joke. They're one of the best goalies in the world. They have the best defenseman in the world. And they have a forward group that's just incredible. It's going to be tough for this division to beat this team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anything else on Tampa?
That's all I have.
All right.
And on to our standings predictions. Would you like to start?
Official predictions for what division are we in? The Central?
The Discover Central Division. Discover Central Division. That was a brain fart.
Discover Central.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8. I got Detroit again. Detroit's not going to be very good. They're going to be a little competitive, maybe sometimes. Thomas Greiss is a decent goalie. Jonathan Bernier, I think, is an okay NHL guy. He's a guy that might be traded at a deadline for help. He's a guy I could see get moved. But Detroit's going to be bad again. That's my 8.
I have Chicago.
Chicago.
I think that they are going to compete with Detroit for like having with their record last year of having one of the worst in modern era. Like I think it's just going to fall out underneath them. They don't have goaltending. They're missing so many pieces, and I think they're just going to lose their first game 5-1 and be like, uh-oh. Every game is going to be like this and develop like a kind of a losing culture because of these injuries, and it's just all going to stack up on them. I don't think this is going to go well for them. I think it's going to be a really long season for Chicago. And like I kind of see they beat Edmonton in the qualifier, right? They beat Edmonton. I felt like that was more about Edmonton not pulling it together than Chicago being able to pull it together. Like I don't give that as like a look. Chicago had so much going for them that like really put them over the edge. I saw that as Edmonton's failure, and with Edmonton better this year, I see maybe Chicago like not being that much better with all the pieces that they have injured. I don't see this going well for them.
I have Chicago at 7. So I still have them being bad.
Detroit at 7, so we haven't flipped.
Yeah, we haven't flipped. I figured we'd have that. The reason why I have Chicago over Detroit is Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane is still one of the best players on the planet. He's still incredible. And I think he will be able to create enough offense that will put him above a team like Detroit. And they got a couple guys too. They got Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha, but they don't have a guy like him. And I think that puts them above Detroit, but not by much.
Ironically, I think that's what puts them below because that's all they have. One scoring line and then three lines that are just going to lose. And you can have, Kane come score 2 points a night, but if you lose 4-2 and he's the one who scored 2 points, that's still a loss. Well, Detroit, might be able to roll three shittier lines. But, the the bottom 9 forwards are better than might have it over Chicago's bottom 9, which maybe, at the end of the season I can see. But that's we both have them second last.
They're both gonna suck. They really do.
Yeah, they're gonna be crap. Yeah. There are no winners here.
No, there are no winners here. All right. This is where it gets interesting for me. Who do you have at 6?
Florida. Yeah. I really do like the pieces that they made, but I don't see how they're I do see maybe if they all click, I see they can maybe even go up as high as 3rd, but I don't see them clicking. I see it just kind of more of that losing culture and just not being able to put it back together. They got the best coach and one of the best goalies in the world, and that still couldn't put it together. There's just something in there that isn't working, and I don't know if the pieces that they've made makes that turnaround this year. I think they're still a few years out from a real change, in my opinion. I think they're still out there, so I have them this low.
I don't have Florida here. Mm-hmm. I have Nashville here.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nashville's done, guys. I don't know if Nashville's going to be very competitive. And Nashville, a couple years ago, was a Stanley Cup finalist. And I don't know if they're going to get the offense from their big players. I don't know if, the top 2 of Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson is the real deal. They had enough defense to make it interesting. But there's a couple teams in this division that have really good defenses, and that doesn't make them stand out in this division to me. I think their lack of offensive ability and their question marks in net puts them at 6 for me.
And I have Nashville at 5th.
Yeah.
For all those reasons, same reasons. I think that the team's on the way down. I don't see things going well for them. Goalie tandem isn't going to keep them together. They're just not as competitive as the teams above them.
Yep, I have Florida at 5th. So we flipped them. We flipped these 2 teams again. The next 2 we flipped them for all the same reasons you said. I think, man, I really wanted to stick with Florida, man, but maybe the year that I don't back them in a prediction is
the year that they pull it together.
Is the year that they finally pull everything together. They have the ability. Alex Barkov is probably is maybe the best 2-way guy in the NHL right now.
Yeah.
Huberdeau is a killer. If Bob puts up a .930 save percentage like he does every other year, because he goes back and forth between a bad season and a Vezina season. So historically, he wins the Vezina this year based on his historical performances.
Based off of trends.
Based off of that trend, but I don't know. Florida could sneak in past who I have it for. I think it'll be close, but I don't think that Florida's going to get there.
I think what's interesting how we're all so close. We talked about this earlier about groups of teams almost. The 2 teams are so similar it's hard to rate them one or above the other.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of fit into a very same in the standings wise. They'll be so similar. Who do you have at 4th?
I got the Columbus Blue Jackets at 4. Columbus is a good defensive team, and they're going to get a little more offense because they're going to be healthier. They're going to be a lot healthier than they were last year. Like I said when we were going over Columbus, they had the most man games lost. They're going to get some offense back this year. And they still have that defense that the Toronto Maple Leafs could not get by, one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. And if their goaltending remains strong and their defense remains strong, they could even be higher on this list. I have them in fourth because of the division they're in, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were like third or second. They bumped a couple teams out if things start clicking for Columbus. Yeah. Who do you got?
I have Dallas.
You have Dallas. Are we gonna flip them
I
again?
see we're gonna flip them again. It's the groups of teams, right? Really similar at the.
Yeah.
I see the injuries that they have coming in to start the season a little bit too crippling. They don't have like forwards to score against the great defense in this division. The defense in this division for like the top 5-6 teams are just so good that they don't have the firepower to score against them, and that's what happened against Tampa. That they just didn't, that Sagan was too injured to like perform at a top level, and they just really had nothing else going for them. And that's what they have coming into this year, and I think that's gonna just put them back in the standings a little bit. That puts them at fourth. Once the injuries are all healed, I feel like they're going to be a much more competitive team. But until that point, it might hurt them in the standings. These injuries.
I can see that for sure. I was thinking about Dallas at fourth or even fifth if I was going to kind of back Florida again because of the same reasons. Let me ask you a question. Do you have Columbus at third?
I do have Columbus at third.
Okay, because I have Dallas at third. At third. So we did flip them again.
We did flip them again.
Yeah, and
I think this is I like how this is going to go.
Yeah, it's an interesting division. It's like we said, these teams are kind of grouped. I think Dallas and Columbus are similar enough that they could flip either way, but I don't think Nashville is better than either one of those. So like it's grouped in groups of two almost.
And for the reasons you said for Columbus, I want to have them there too. I've really liked the defense that they have going for them. The pieces that they made work. This is their year to have a healthy team and really come and show that they're a playoff contender.
Yeah. Who do you got at number 2?
Tampa Bay.
Oh.
Yeah, we're flipping every single.
We're flipping every single one.
We're flipping, yeah. I think that the lack that they weren't able to add anything, and they did lose a little bit. They're still good, but not as good as last year. And I think the team that's above them has just the best roster overall, like top to bottom in depth in the entire NHL. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah.
And we've already kind of,
I'll spoil it, Carolina.
Buried the lead here.
Yeah.
You have Carolina at 1, I have Tampa at 1, and I have Carolina at 2.
I have Tampa. Yeah.
I couldn't put the Stanley Cup champions, the exact same team, at 2.
It looks wrong the way I have it typed out. Like it looks weird having Carolina that high.
I think Carolina is going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I think Carolina is going to have a really good season. But yeah, I couldn't bump them. I couldn't do it, and that's awesome that you did.
yeah, because I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say that this is I'm gonna give it to them. This is the one that they just take it and they're like, yeah, we have everything. A young, really young, group, especially on forwards, who are just ready to come out and explode and show that. The first round loss to Boston, that was just a fluke. They're gonna they're pissed off, and just like Tampa last year, they're ready to come and show that they can be a Stanley Cup team.
Yeah, I thought this would have been a layup. That's really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Those are our predictions.
I'm glad that we're completely different on these.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody who did watch. Let us know down below. Especially let us know down below if you agree with at least the groupings of two teams. Whether or not they're flipped or not. If you agree with that kind of order in a 1 and 2, 2 and 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. If you think we're right, let us know down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because we found this hilarious, how close we were, but also how far off we both were.
Yeah, we were so close, but we didn't have a single one that was the same.
A single, yeah.
So somehow we most similar.
We agreed on everything, but couldn't agree on anything.
Yeah, interesting predictions from us. Yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out the other 2 prediction videos.
Yeah, and then the East that will come out soon, unless you saw the East first and you did them in reverse order. However you're watching this, just make sure you watch all of them. Yeah, and come back in a year's time and give it to us and laugh at how wrong we were, because I'm excited to be wrong. I'm excited for the season to start, and it's gonna be a fun one, man.
Thank you guys again so much for watching. Peace.